Let's be real here. Gaming has a Me Too problem. Some game sells well, and the next thing you know, either a clueless developer or a publisher of a game desperate for increased sales will look at this game and think maybe we should make our game just like theirs. After all, we don't want our game to become irrelevant, so let's copy what they're doing, put it in our new game, and sell even more copies of our game to their audience. This usually ends up backfiring, however. Just look at what's happened with many game franchises. In the West, there are plenty of examples of this, from the time when new hyped up shooters were called Halo killers, to what's happened recently with the Halo and Call of Duty franchises, where they've gone from being the leader and the game every developers wanted to emulate, to feeling like a higher budget version of a clone of a more popular game you'd find sitting around the used bin at GameStop. Kind of like what many of the clones of these games were. And look, now they've become the clones. Sad. This has also been the trend with some Japanese franchises, and this includes Japanese toyetic franchises as well. Lately, this game series called Yokai Watch has been a thing, and well, in Japan, it's popular like Monster Hunter is. Not only are some lesser known franchises such as Digimon trying to ape it, but even Pokemon did this with Pokemon Sun and Moon. While it hasn't sold as well as Pokemon has, it's been big in Japan, coming close to its sales numbers over there. It has also received several manga adaptations, an anime, some anime movies, and several spin off titles, including even a Just Dance title based on Yokai Watch. Yeah, that's right, they had a Just Dance title based on it in Japan. And well, this series caught my eye for two reasons. One, I've seen it at stores like Walmart in the same areas where other heavily marketed crap for kids is sold, and I've looked at it wondering, who the hell is going to be buying this? Two, I'm curious to what this series is doing that is causing it to sell so much in Japan and become cloned by every company selling a big multimedia franchise in Japan. So today I'm going to be reviewing Yokai Watch 2 Bony Spirits for the Nintendo 3DS. So what is Yokai Watch 2? Well, it's an RPG for little kids developed by Level 5, most notable for developing Inzuma 11, White Knight Chronicles, some Dragon Quest titles, and Professor Layton. Some games I could honestly care less about. It's for the Nintendo 3DS, which makes sense as the game is big in Japan, where handhelds are still relevant. Originally, this game came out in 2014 in Japan, and despite not being out in Europe yet, its sequel is already out in Japan. So the first thing you see when you fire up Yokai Watch 2 is a stupid anime style intro with the dumbest, most cringeworthy auto-tune lyrics I've seen in a video game. Socks go missing in the dryer, yo. I make mischief anywhere, and you may not even believe they're there. At least you get more than one save slot, though, unlike Pokemon, which still only gives you one save slot. You then see the game begin, and on one hand, the game seems to have higher production values than Pokemon does. The graphics actually look half decent, and there is actually voice acting for select cutscenes. Then again, that's not too much of an achievement considering that Pokemon's production values feel like that of a Steam Greenlight title. However, the dialogue in Yokai Watch feels like it was written by some nerds in their basement making an abridged anime series, because holy shit, the dialogue is cringeworthy. It's full of random jokes and random humor left and right, and it feels like you're trapped in a room babysitting your cousin watching some trashy kids shows on Netflix again. Except you're not babysitting your cousin. You're playing a Nintendo 3DS game by yourself, and you're over the age of 12. And that's a horrible feeling if you have any sense of shame, don't you agree? The game has pacing issues as well, taking a while to actually start the game, as you're pushed through a cliche beginning to the story where you forget things and then somehow remember them again. And I mean, holy shit, this drags on as long as a Compile Heart or newer Pokemon game, with endless tutorials and linear cutscenes for at least an hour, where an older Pokemon game like Ruby or Sapphire would have gotten you to the game itself already. I mean, Doom 2016, it did it right. You start the game, and from the minute you start it, you're in the game itself. This game, on the other hand, drags for at least an hour, and it pisses me off. The entire premise of Yokai Watch is what multimedia franchises like Pokemon have been cloning lately. You get this magic watch that allows you to see spirits you can't see with the naked eye, and did you know that you can buy a toy of that? Amazing. It's like they're basically trying to copy Digimon while at the same time do their own thing. Oh yeah, and both the new Pokemon and Digimon series also have an arm-mounted device that allows you to do things with your monsters. Amazing. The character designs are just a bunch of random designs tossed at the wall and are no way memorable at all. You're not going to see the cult following that Pokemon and Digimon have among older nerds with this game whatsoever. And as someone who has been around far too many of these communities online full of weird people, I know this for a fact. I also rarely see kids carrying around Yokai Watch gear or playing Yokai Watch, and it seems like the merchandise just clogs up Walmart in the same way poop emoji plushies do. The music is bland and forgettable, and it seems like there is a lot of that wobbly flute you hear in wannabe scary Halloween music that some neighbor plays to be hip with the kids on Halloween night while handing out those gooey burgers you end up throwing in the trash. Moving around in Yokai Watch is a chore. You walk around a big town at a slow speed, and you can dash, but your character will run out of stamina. If you got used to holding the B button in every Pokemon game since Generation 3, you can't do that because you'll run out of stamina. And unlike in, say, Call of Duty, where you go back to normal speed when you run out, you start walking slowly instead, and you have to wait for your meter to recharge. But perhaps the worst part about Yokai Watch, and what really breaks the game, is the battle system. See, the game uses a similar battle system to Digimon World 1 and that game's sequels. This means that unlike a traditional role-playing game like Pokemon, or some of the Digimon titles such as the Digimon story games, you get no control over your character, not even over one character. You just tap the start button once you get out your stylus, and the game features auto battles, with special moves you can use by drawing things on the bottom of the screen similar to a quick time event, and some orders you can issue out. That's it. Now here's the thing. Pokemon is not really a deep game at all. Sure, some nerd is going to tell me otherwise about how hardcore Pokemon is and how it's the most pro competitive game ever and how tactical it is despite being absent at most events. But here's the thing. Pokemon's a game targeted towards kids, and yet even Sun and Moon feel like you're actually playing the game, commanding your team of Pokemon to use moves. You actually feel like you have control in Pokemon. You do not in Yokai Watch. While Pokemon might be a kids game and targeted towards kids for the most part, they want to target a wider demographic. For example, they'll throw in older Pokemon in the game that people recognize and show them off in trailers, and they'll even talk about how the game supposedly has some competitive scene in an attempt to get kids buying the newest one every year. But that's not the only thing they've done with Pokemon to try to attract a more broad demographic. They've also done things such as remove genders in Pokemon Super Mystery Dungeon, or no longer let you pick a specific gender in Pokemon Sun and Moon. Sure, no kid is going to care about that, but some special snowflake on Tumblr who insists that you use their wacko far-out pronouns in a desperate attempt to seek acceptance and win at the Oppression Olympics will care about that. Yokai Watch, on the other hand, feels like it was engineered for mommy to give to their little kid for a long car trip in their Range Rover so they can shut up about how they need to go to the rest area to take a leak for a few more minutes. Because the game holds your hand even more than Pokemon does and just doesn't let up with the tutorials. It might be boring and dull and mind-numbing for a parent to watch their kid play, but hey, the kids like it and at least they're not complaining about there being no rest area or gas station in sight for the next few miles. All in all, don't waste your money on Yokai Watch because it's just a bad game, really. I mean, I don't see this game's appeal for anybody over 10 years old. It's just not a very good game whatsoever. Don't waste your money on it. Please don't. Save your money for other games.